recess and all that other stuff. So, we'll get right to it. First item on the regular agenda is, will be a request to present the 2021-2022 departmental over/under spending summary report. Peter, do you want to talk about what this is going to be since we got three commissioners?
This essentially is an analysis of the difference between what the commission has approved as far as budgetary expenditures for the department and the actual incurred expenditures for those departments. In state law for Alabama, the provision is that if a department goes over the approved amount of expenditures by from the commission, that the individual department head will be responsible for repaying those funds to the general fund. Typically, there are slight overages and underages that occur, and they're explainable and understandable. Some are, as I will describe for you today. One has been an omission, an unintentional omission, and that's on my part. And some are just because of costs were incurred that were not anticipated because of either supply chain availability, whatever. And so I have a quick presentation to show the commission at the 10 o'clock meeting of the over and under. But the point of this is so that the commission can review that and then approve posthumously, but approve the over under amount so that it makes it a budgeted amount. Therefore, it's not a responsibility of the department.
Any questions?
We've got one question, Chairman. The highlighted part, is that the over or the under?
That's the oversight.
All right. Any objection to this going on the regular agenda? Item number 2, also Peter, is a request to publish the Houston County year-end financial report to include county, judiciary, and other special trust funds. So this is a budget amendment.
No, so this is a annual required published, there's a state law that says that by 12/31 of every calendar year, that the unaudited financial information be presented to the commission for approval and then published in the local newspaper. That information includes the expenditures, the revenue, the expenditures, the long-term debt, and fixed assets.
Okay, and it's already budgeted.
Yeah, this is.
All right, any questions about item number 2? Any objections to that going on the agenda?
No objection.
Item number 3 is a request to adopt a resolution in support of local legislation for compensation increase for election officials and approved cost of advertising. So probate Judge Davenport is going to come and tell us what that is all about. Judge?
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. This is legislation that would authorize a increase in compensation for our poll workers. We have an amazing group of poll workers that are dedicated election after election after election, and they come and serve, and they spend a lot of time in training. And then, as you gentlemen know, the election day is a long day at the polling location, and we have not been able to provide them a compensation increase in some time. So this legislation would authorize, if so approved, an increase for poll workers of approximately $15 per election cycle. It would authorize a deputy chief inspector position that would increase that position by $40, and it would increase the chief inspector at each precinct by $50. So it's trying to address the compensation needs for these individuals. It's very difficult to find folks that will work and commit to working. We believe the increase in this compensation will help, and it will also show respect to folks who are largely volunteering their time, or at least historically have been, because our compensation has been so low. They historically, well, as it exists now, they're receiving approximately $5 an hour if you calculate the number of hours that they work through an election. So this would at least address that, alleviate some of that financial burden on them to some degree.
I understand you've been getting a lot of requests from that. From the poll.
Yes, sir. Last couple of election cycles, there have been other counties that have increased their poll worker compensation. So I've been hearing about it, and I think it's right. I think it's good for them. It's a way to honor them, and it's more than fair, in my opinion. It would cost the county approximately $5,000 every other year.
Gotcha. Now, I know we talked about this last week, the statewide initiative. So how would this gel with that if the state does?
If the state, as you are painfully aware, there are many state initiatives that are initiated but never come to fruition. I am fearful that that might happen this time, although it has a reasonable chance of succeeding. However, if the state legislature on a statewide basis increases poll worker pay, it is not likely to increase it because we are one of the larger counties. And all the larger counties have local legislation to address poll worker pay. If the state increases the compensation statewide, it is still not likely to meet the level that our poll workers are at currently. So, and then you run the risk of it not. And that's why I deferred this for a couple of years already in the hopes that some statewide initiative would come to fruition. I feel like it's important for us as leaders in our community to show our Houston County poll workers that we're taking steps to ensure that this happens.
Questions?
So Judge, so if the statewide initiative passes, so it will not affect us at all here in Houston County? You said
No, sir. We would ensure that.
Bypass it, basically, bypass it.
Yes, sir. My inclination would be, and I will watch that state initiative.
I got a good feeling it's gonna pass this time.
It's got the best chance that it's had. I still don't think it will raise it to the level that we're wanting, because there's so many small counties in Alabama that are significantly lower than we are now. They're going to feel some positive movement. You know, the legislature is always cautious about expending statewide money that comes from their general fund. So I would anticipate they're going to make some move on it, but it may not address our folks' problem. So the Montgomerys and Baldwin counties and Madison counties and Tuscaloosa counties and, you know, Houston counties and Etowahs and the larger counties are probably already past where that state legislation would take the state anyway. That's my inclination. I can't guarantee that, but that's what I think.
And Judge, what is current compensation as we stand today?
All right, a poll worker receives $110 for approximately 20 to 25 hours. A chief inspector receives $150 for approximately that same amount of time.
So one's going up to a raise to 190?
No, no, sir. The chief inspector would go from 150 to 200. The poll worker would go from 110 to 125.
Gotcha.
And we're creating a new position from the already existing pool of workers. We're not adding any workers, but we're creating a position called deputy chief inspector. There's so much responsibility at a precinct on election day. We need a second in command, and that position would go to 150. So our new pay would be 125, 150, and 200.
Deputy chief will be at each location?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman. Judge, this, I see on the paper, it says $5,430. Is that the total of everything you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
That's what it would be.
Yes, sir. For
And that'll
all,
be every 2 years, correct?
yes, sir.
Not every year, every 2.
That's right. Every other year.
Just want to make sure. Thank you, Judge.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Just so one more time, just for clarity.
Yes, sir.
And I'm looking at these numbers and I know that look like we're way above what everyone else is trying to get to. I mean, for statewide. If the legislation passed, we just omit the legislation, which so Houston County would not be affected at all.
Yes, sir.
It won't be a pay increase, let me be clear. It might not be another.
An additional. No, sir, if the state legislature were to approve an increase that exceeded what we're offering, I would take steps to ensure we're incorporated within that increase. I cannot imagine that happening. And I say that because, just to be candid with you, we're in the top 10 of compensation now. But that's because we're top 10 size county in a larger municipal area. So if you go to the Butlers, the Maringos, the Wilcox counties of the state, which there are many of the 67 counties, there 50 plus of those size counties. So I think it's only appropriate that the state legislature do something to address poll worker pay in those counties. I'm just concerned that if I sit back again and do nothing, our folks may lose out. That's my concern.
I was in a meeting last week, and you're right, most of those counties are getting an average between $50 to $70. I was shocked.
Yes, sir. For the work that they provide and the ever increasing integrity that's expected from our election process, we need people that are fairly compensated, in my opinion.
This will take effect in the next election.
Yes, sir, in 24. Presuming the legislation passes in the spring of 23, it would, and that's why I wanted to go ahead and do it, because if I wait till 23 to do it at the end of 23, it wouldn't take effect for 24.
One other.
Mr. Chairman?
One clarification.
Mr. Chairman,
We don't. you
a
have to sign
point
up
of
for
order,
comment.
sir,
No, point
please.
of order.
I do need,
We're gonna pay for the cost of
request a point of
advertising.
order, please. I have a question, just a
We're gonna-
question.
We're gonna pay for the cost of advertising for this. This is elections is a county administrative function. The pro judge
Yes, sir.
does that. But item number, first, any objection? Item number 4 is a request to adopt resolution in support of local legislation for appointment of temporary probate judges. So we're gonna pay the cost of advertising for number 3. Number 4, you're gonna pick up. but
Yes, sir.
I'll let you go ahead and make.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Item number 4 is local legislation that would authorize the probate judge to make the appointment of temporary probate judges when needed. As you're aware, I have emergency hearings, particularly related to commitment hearings, temporary guardianship hearings that have to be heard really within a day or two of those pleadings being filed. If I'm at conference, the way the state law works now is I would have to petition the presiding circuit judge. The circuit judge would have to then issue an order to appoint that special temporary judge to sit in my stead if I have a conflict, or if it was a family member of mine, or if I'm at conference or for some reason. This would allow, so there's a significant time frame swing to get that to the circuit court, filed in back to me. And these emergency hearings are filed and heard very quickly. This is legislation that is mirrored after Montgomery County, Baldwin County, Jefferson County, some of the larger counties, authorizing the probate judge to make that appointment instead of the presiding circuit judge. And in this case, I have a deputy chief clerk who's an attorney who's authorized to hear these cases. And largely, she's the one that hears these cases, but we're having to jump through this hoop to do it. This would just allow me to appoint her on any given case at any given time.
I guess one question I have, just for my knowledge, so when a emergency hearing application, I don't know if that's the right term, when you receive that, what's the turnaround time that you normally hold that?
All right, I have involuntary commitment docket every Wednesday morning. So if a petition is filed, Commissioner Ivy, Captain Ivy is responsible for the community mental health officer team. If it's filed, if an individual is acutely mentally ill, and it can be, if a mental health officer can be convinced that they need mental health treatment immediately, they're authorized to take them to the hospital immediately. However, if it doesn't rise to that level or law enforcement is not called, an individual, any individual has the authority to file a petition to seek the involuntary commitment of another at any point in time. So that cutoff for us is Tuesday at noon. So if you file it after Tuesday at noon through the following Tuesday at noon, it's heard that next Wednesday. So a lot of petitions are filed on Monday and Tuesday, and I hear them Wednesday morning. And that's really, if I'm going to be gone or I find out I've got a conflict with one of those parties, it's a really quick turnaround time to try to get that appointment from the circuit judge. So there's a mechanism, and I say this, I probably go deeper into it than you want to hear, but I say this publicly because I want the public to know there is a mechanism to have your loved one seen about on an emergency basis. If it's in the middle of the night, call law enforcement. They will send a community mental health officer to evaluate that situation, and they have the authority to take them to the hospital should that be appropriate. However, if the petition is filed, I hear that here every Wednesday morning. I hear the follow-up hearings every Tuesday morning at the hospital.
Questions? No objections?
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, item number 5 is a request to approve budget amendment due to price increase for the purchase of 2 vehicles. Assuming we have someone from the reappraisal department to talk about this, if there's any questions, but everybody knows the cost of everything is not going down. So, any questions? Do you want to make any comments?
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, the last year when we were trying to put our budget together, got some cost of Ford Explorers, state bid, and it was, I think they're 25,000 a piece. Now they've bumped up to 33 a piece. So we're just asking for that amendment to offset that cost.
Question, Peter, is this reimbursed?
Yes, this is fully
So
reimbursed.
this is not going to, at the end of the day, cost the county.
That's
General fund.
exactly correct.
Questions? Objections, this going on the agenda? All right, thank you. Item number 6 is a request to approve budget amendment in the amount of $15,000 for funds received from Farley Nuclear for Ashford Volunteer Fire Department. Chris Judah asked this to go on the agenda. He could not be here today, so my recollection of that conversation, I believe he sent us all an email as well, is that Ashford is one of the responding agencies to. Correct. Exactly right. So Ashford is one of the responding agencies to Farley Nuclear Plant, and they need, I believe, a new generator, and they've applied for a grant from Farley. So this is money in, money out. Objection, right? On the agenda. Item number 7 is a request to award bid to Ingenuity for a website contract and authorize chairman to negotiate documents. We've opened this bid, it's been 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and we've had 2 bidders that come in at the exact same price, except for the hosting and maintenance and support and that sort of thing. So Ingenuity was the lowest bidder meeting specs because they are not charging anything for 3 years for hosting and maintenance, and after that it'll be nominal for them hosting fee. So this will get us a new website that the old or the current website is currently, antiquated, y'all know that, and so this will allow a lot of department heads like Engineer Kirkland and personnel to make their own edits to their section of the website. They won't, like Engineer Kirkland wouldn't be able to edit personnel's portion of the website, and likewise personnel department couldn't edit road and bridge portion of the website. So it'll speed up updates to the site. It'll be more friendly for people that are correct term is, but not able to see as well, have to use a screen reader. So anyway, so any questions on this item?
No objection.
No objection, placing this on the agenda. Okay. And I'm sorry, it was $25,000. And the ingenuity is just for clarification, the ingenuity is we already do business with them at the probate judge's office, and they specialize in, oh, and Rover, I didn't know that. And they also specialize in doing governmental agency websites. All right, item number 8 is a request to approve memorandum of understanding with Houston County Volunteer Fire Departments and Houston County Volunteer Fire Association. Yes, okay, sorry, I misread that. So this is a MOU, as you all know, that we have approved $750,000 to each of the volunteer agencies, volunteer fire and EMS. Of course, the ARPA funds allowed our general fund to make this appropriation. So this is general fund money. This is not ARPA, not federal funds. That being said, we do feel like there does need to be some, accountability to make sure the money's spent appropriately. So I've been working with our EMA director, Judah, to figure out what should and should not be an eligible expense for these funds. We've come to that agreement. There's certain, qualifications. In other words, you have to be a qualified agency to receive these funds, which I believe all of our agencies are, but that's just something we want to make sure that we're not giving it to a fire department that doesn't meet the qualifications to be a volunteer fire department. So all that stuff will be checked out. I guess that's it. Perhaps could I explain that any better? Do you have any comments on this?
I think just a clarification for both of the items. The intent is for the money to be allocated to the association, so the Volunteer Fire Association and the EMS Association, and they then are the ones that dispense or disperse that allocation based on the parameters of the MOU to the individual, either volunteer fire departments or rescue squads. And then the associations would respond back to the county to show everything is properly spent. That way, the county is not having to answer, I believe there are 17 volunteer fire departments in the county, for instance. We don't have to answer 17 specific emails and figure out if this is fitting in there. The Volunteer Fire Association would know those answers a lot better than I think someone at the county would. And at the same time, they are able to articulate and figure out how better to disperse these items. So we think this strikes probably the best balance for the county in terms of making sure your money is spent properly, but at the same time, a volunteer fire department, and a volunteer fire association probably knows best how to spend and allocate those funds on each individual fire department.
That's a good point. I appreciate you reminding us of that. We definitely don't want to be in the business of deciding that Ashford needs this and doesn't need that, and Wicksburg needs this and doesn't need that. So we're going to let the associations make those determinations as they're the experts. Any questions for Chris or?
I got a question, just want to make sure clarification. It's $750,000 a piece going to each one, I understand what we're doing. But they have to meet the requirements of the American Rescue Plan Act, correct? I mean, it has to be met before that money is dispersed, is that?
No,
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 Okay.
this is all general fund money.
this is all general fund money. Okay, great.
This is under
That's
the
what I want to make
Office of
sure.
Commission.
Okay,
It's going to be much easier.
much easier for them to use.
Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Chris, again, who's tracking the money, you said?
So for instance, the Volunteer Fire Association would track money that was allocated to it for purposes of distribution to the volunteer fire departments. And then according to the MOU, the association would be required monthly to remit and show to the county that those funds were properly spent on the items listed. There's a qualification that each of the volunteer fire departments would have to meet the standard requirements that they're required to have anyways. So no new additional overage and oversight to them. But then we would see each month that the county commission's money is properly being spent, or the county's money, I guess, is properly being spent.
So it's almost like a perpetual ongoing audit going on at all times.
Correct.
To show transparency.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Thank
anything that they cannot spend it on?
Would not, well, I know some of the items explicitly prohibited are fuel, meals, loan repayments, stuff like that. But really, those are the only things explicitly disallowed, but really the list of what is allowed is what they can spend money. So anything not on that allowable list, am I correct?
Yes, for instance, there could be something that we didn't include there. For example, for fire departments, it says hoses, but there's not, and forgive me if this is antiquated, hooks and ladders also. So maybe the hooks and ladders should be included, but for instance, loan repayments are specifically excluded from it. Payment for fuel, I believe the overall intent is to be, this money is supposed to be used to put money into defending fires. I understand you gotta put gas in the vehicle, but that can kind of run away from you pretty easily.
So those things that are allowed and not allowed, but basically association will still be the gatekeepers for those things anyway. So
Correct.
nothing to do with us really.
Correct.
All right.
Correct, yeah.
And, who come up with the allowable and non-allowable for the expenditures of the money?
My understanding is the associations had some discussion with that. The EMA director also had some input in all those items. For instance, with the rescue squads, they have basically agreed on how they anticipate the money to be spent, primarily on the ambulances. And so I think they've kind of done their homework and figured out this is approximately what we think we can use this money for. And then they've told us this is what we think we need to use it for. We bounce that back and forth. The county commission, the EMA director, the individual associations. None of these items are, they all know this is coming. I think that's a fair way to say that. They will agree, yes, we understand this is what we can spend this money on, and they're agreeing with that.
We're editing these things as recently as this weekend. We have some things in there that are going to make it a little bit more difficult. It's probably what it needs to be for a couple items. And this money will be released to them in January for cash flow reasons. Correct?
Yes, or, I mean, I haven't seen the MOU. I don't know if it's a reimbursement kind of a methodology or if it's full funding and then they sort of draw down.
The plan will be for the latter, the full funding, and then pull out, draw out.
In January, first if possible.
Well, I promised January.
Okay,
So we'll make January work.
Yes.
If possible.
It shall be done.
Any other questions? Are there any objections to this going on the agenda?
No objection.
All right. And item number 9 is just a mirror image of this, but it relates to the Houston County Rescue Squad Management Services Association. So any questions about this? No objection to just putting this on the agenda. Right? Item number 10 is a request to award request to award bids for night vision binoculars. So this is 9 pair, $99,574.23. I'm assuming this is in the budget. Basic, any comments?
Yes, I just want to advise the commission, this is budget items that was approved due to the cost. It was bid out, and we're asking the lowest bid be approved and awarded.
Any questions? Any objection to this going on the agenda?
No objection.
No? Thank you, Major. Item number 11 is a request to adopt resolution to authorize allocation of ARPA funds for eligible water infrastructure project for the town of Rehoboth. And then we have Mayor Trotter here today, gracing us with her presence. Thank you for being here. Peter, when you want to talk about this, I know we can talk about this extensively because I'm, to be honest with you, still learning how this ARPA stuff works. So why don't you give us the 10,000 foot view about this?
Well, let me go higher than that.
Okay.
40,000.
Speak into the mic, please.
So this request, this resolution is to specifically allocate the funds to a project, in this case, the Rehoboth Water Project. There's a lot of preliminary information that needs to be sorted through and reviewed. Once a project is determined to be an eligible project, then the commission can authorize a resolution to specifically set those monies aside pending a questionnaire that we need to go through and working out of a subrecipient agreement with the entity. So this is, you gentlemen have already earmarked funds for certain projects. Now we're getting down to the engineering reports and what these projects are really going to cost us, so we can look at what the commission is going to commit to and specifically allocate to that project. There'll be another resolution that will come out with, once we get the subrecipient agreement, to actually award the infrastructure.
Clear as mud?
Did we, no objection.
No objection, place this on the agenda. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Mayor, for working with us on the project. Item number 12 is a request to adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Forever Wild Land Trust and approve accompanying memorandum of understanding. So as you are all aware, we have some Forever Wild land in Houston County. Those lands do not pay property tax, so the burden to provide services to that is really given to every other county taxpayer. And there has been some discussion in Montgomery to require them to pay property taxes. And I guess the way I read this, which may or may not be correct, this is an effort to stave off some of that, some of those efforts. So the State Lands Division has gotten a bunch of smart people in the room, and they have decided that they will pay us very generously $1.60 per acre in property taxes for the Forever Wild land. So that was my calculation. And so we will get $619.20 for FY 2023. Any questions about this item?
Every little bit we get, we take.
Now, will this be a continuance from this point forward?
That is my understanding. We shall see.
I think, if I might,
Yeah.
please, I think the way they characterize this is a fee, not as a in lieu of property taxes or in lieu of taxes. It's a fee, and so I can't answer that question.
They're offering, so we're going to take. Any objection to this going on the agenda? No objection. Item number 13 is a request to approve addendum to the agreement for the sale and purchase of Houston County Farm Center and authorize chairman to negotiate documents. So as you are all aware, we agreed last year, or was it earlier this year, to sell the farm center to the city of Dothan. But with changing commission and holidays and trying to figure everything out building wise, we have, I have been in discussions with the city manager, the mayor, and several of the other city commissioners to potentially delay this transaction. I've talked to enough that I think at this point, most of them, maybe not all, but most of them are on board with the delay. Of course, they will have to vote on this on the 20th. So this is just our request that they delay this, and the new closing date will be pushed back to the deadline. So the closing shall occur on or before May 9th. So this is a 4-month really extension for that agreement. And hopefully they will approve it. Obviously, if they don't, we will be selling this to them on January 9th. Whether we want to sell it or whatever or not. So that's sort of the lay of the land. So any questions about this?
Brandon, can you elaborate a little bit about why we're extending?
It's just with the new commission, and we're going to the building committee and trying to figure out like how to make best use of our property and buildings and that sort of thing. So we need to go through that process. Also with the holidays, we've got a lot of people out there and a lot of stuff out there, to be honest with you, that we've just not been able to figure out where it's going to go. And we think 4 months will allow all that stuff to take place. We'll be able to do something about it. May not.
Sure. Will 4 months be enough cushion to get the pad and the building built? Move the equipment from the farm center to the new building?
Good question. No, it will not. So assuming we do go forward with the sale, well, whether they extend it or not, I'm assuming we sell it on January the 9th or May the 9th, we will enter into a lease agreement. So we don't have to go anywhere. They don't have any use of any use for that property. So certainly good with that. Matter of fact, we have already been well underway in negotiations for the lease agreement. The drafting of the documents. So no, we're not going to get a big return. So the answer to that. Any other questions? Any objection to this going on the agenda?
No objection.
Item 14 is a request to enter into a construction agreement with Aldot for Project Palm and Industrial Access Project. This is the road that we're going to be constructing. So Bartley, Engineer Kirkland, you want to talk about this?
It's just an industrial access grant we got with the state with Matt Parker, about $2 million. It's to build a road in off of Hodgesville in between two new businesses going out. Well, one's existing Smartland and another business, Big Renewables, is going out there. From what I understand, it's about $85 million worth of business going in. So we got a grant to build this road, turn lanes and all going in there between the two buildings.
This is a really good deal for us, in my opinion, because a lot of times when we have to participate in industrial, economic projects, it requires us expending your own time and resources at our own costs. And in this instance, we're going to be reimbursed for those resources and time by the state. So really, really good deal. And it's going to make land available for new jobs, which is the most important thing that we do. Any questions? Any objection to this going on the agenda?
No objection.
Item 15 is a request to approve declaration of no bid received for bid number CC-0841 and request to negotiate through the receipt of informal bids for the fiber loop network project. So we had a bid opening a few days ago, I guess, while we were at our conference in Montgomery, and had 0 bidders for the fiber loop project. So, Press, why don't you come up and talk about what the law sort of allows us to do? And I know one of the options is to negotiate through the receipt of informal bids, but why don't you just talk about the options so everybody's kind of aware of how this works when we don't receive a valid bid?
So according to the Public Works Law, there are 3 options when no bid is received on a bid. We could go back and just rebid the bid again. Okay, you're probably gonna get the same exact results again. The other option would be to do this by informal bids, as the resolution states, which is you go out and you try and find someone that is willing to do a project like this for you. We would have to report all this information to the Department of Public Examiners. If we find someone that can negotiate a contract that works for us, all that information will be made known to the public once that's done. The other last option would be to do the project by force account, which means the county would essentially act as its own general contractor and find subcontractors to do this work. That option would still be on the table if you pursued the resolution before you, which is to seek informal bids. The thought being that's kind of a last step option. The last 2, anything besides going through the formal bid process again, you have oversight by the state public examiner's office. We'd have to turn over the information, make all this information and things known. But again, you've received no bids. These are the options under the state bid law. My understanding is you're intending to use ARPA funds for this. The nature of the ARPA funds, though, only require us to follow the state bid law. There's no additional federal requirements beyond the state public works law in this instance.
When we pursue this option to negotiate through the receipt of informal bids, does it, I know anytime you're doing a public works project, there's a lot of paperwork, hoops that the company has to jump through. Are those hoops still there for this method?
In terms of,
like other paperwork, I'm assuming there's a lot of paperwork.
Performance bonds.
Whatever we would, my understanding is whatever we would want to place in that bid, we can do.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're not whole cloth away from the bid law, but most of the formal requirements have been relaxed on that.
Gotcha. Any questions? Any objections to this going on in the direction? That concludes the agenda. We do have one privileges of the floor request, Mr. Gary Knight. Talked about this is related to the thing we spoke last time. We had a conversation before, so I think today we'll give 2 minutes to clarify, I guess, some statements that may be, anyway, some confusion from last time. So Gary, the floor is yours, 2 minutes.
The last meeting, I requested a audit for funding from 501(c) header into a private corporation. And after I presented my program, actually I overran it. One of the commissioners said, well, this has been addressed through the Attorney General's office. And my understanding, I was not at the meeting, but my understanding is it was, what was addressed was, is it legal for a 501(c) or HEDA to purchase land? And the ruling was understanding that, yes, they can do that. But that was not the issue of my request. The issue of my request was what happened to the money after the sale was made, who the money ended up, whose pocket it ended up, and so forth. Was it a legal violation or an ethical violation? These are things that need to be addressed by the Attorney General's office, and it is not a moot question. I want to keep in mind too, the commissioners were not being vindictive or undercutting on what I had to say. It was their understanding at the time. It's my understanding time it has not been addressed, that the money after the program, after the purchase of land, is what we need to look at to determine whether it's ethical or illegal due to the manipulation of the purchases and going out of state to form corporations. That was a suggestion. I do want to thank you for letting me clear that up.
Okay, thank you, Gary. All right, there are no other privileges of the floor, so we will be, this meeting is adjourned, and we will convene at 10 o'clock for our regular